Welcome, class, to Chapter 7's lecture. The chapter is, of course, entitled Improving Human Resource Management. What this chapter does is it's the second of three in the human resources frame, and so this is all going to be dedicated to visions of how to take the theoretical construct of the human resources frame and really try to apply it to some concepts. It's got case studies involved in it, and this specific lecture I have left a link in the lecture if you go back to our Angel page and you see underneath this lecture there's going to be just a cut and pasted second YouTube video. I'm going to embed and try to talk through and discuss a video similar to what I do in class within this lecture. If either the volume doesn't work out or you have some trouble with the actual transmission of it in this format, it's going to be available to you right underneath. It's about an 8-minute video, so you'll know you're in the right place. And also, no matter what, you should be able to see it in this lecture. So we're going to be a little bit more adventurous in terms of the presentation of this specific chapter, but ultimately I think that it's going to be incredibly useful. So let's go on to see some of the strategies for actually improving human resource management. There's a variety of them that we're going to talk about. They revolve around figuring out how to get the most out of your employees, how to get the right people for the job, and how to get those right people to function to the best of their abilities. Remember that the human resources frame, in the same way that the structural frame was going to hammer on you about organizing, about structure, about the way things are put together, the human resources frame is really going to focus on not only finding the right people, keeping the right people happy, what strategies communicatively, economically, psychologically do we employ and utilize in order to make people feel like a good part of the group, make people want to be part of the group, and make people be able to succeed within being a part of the group. We'll talk a little bit about how to empower employees near the end, and we'll also talk about diversity writ large. So one of the places that we'll use as the absolute pinnacle of what we're talking about when we say we want to stress a certain variety of things in order to make people better. Google. It's a company that's able to reject a ridiculously high number of applicants. Why does it get to reject so many people? Because it gets so many applicants that want to be a part of it. It's a really fun place to work. It's a really great place to work. And they offer incentives so that once they've got the right people, they give you every reason to be successful possible. And this is where we're going to actually take a look at the video. And this video is a Travel Channel special and documentary that deals with a lot of how Google works. So I'm going to go ahead and fire this up and we'll see how it works. Fulfilling a certain need. It helps fulfill the desire in employees to work in a stress-free place. Though this physical need has nothing to do with their job, it shows what the company can provide for them. Helps you get other work done while you're at work. Now I'll go ahead and stop the video there. The important part has been transmitted here. And what it is that what Google's done is it's taken the perspective of the human resources frame and it's looked to try to fulfill the potential needs that could be thought of. If you made a list of what anyone who worked for your organization could need, they could need food, so you offer a variety of different cuisine options. They could need snacks whenever they're working. They have those available to you in specialized form. You're going to need to, as we talked about in the last chapter with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we need to be clean, we need to have clean clothes, we need to be able to run errands. Well, they provide you with laundry opportunities, they provide you with a car to be able to run your errands. It's using this perspective to say, okay, now that we've fulfilled all these opportunities for you and we've taken care of the lower ends of your needs, you now in turn work at your absolute optimum capabilities. When we give you directives or we ask you to accomplish a goal, you find a creative way to be able to create that or complete that goal. And what that does is it frees the individual to be able to take part in the organization in a holistic manner, to be able to connect with them in ways that you might not get with other organizations. Now, not every company is going to have the means that Google does in order to provide all of these things. But what I'm hoping to, for showing you this very extreme example, is to help you understand that when you're talking about organizations, whether they be corporate organizations or others, the more that you can provide to the individual, something as simple as extended health care, better retirement benefits, these are reasons to choose one place over another, to be a member of one organization as opposed to an alternative. These are ways that the human resources frame really works in your day-to-day life that you can wrap your head around, that you know exist. So one of the ways in order to build our human resource management is to implement a human resource philosophy. So you develop a public statement about the organization's human resource philosophy, and then you build systems and practices to actually implement that philosophy. Let's continue to extend the Google analogy, if we will. This example comes from the idea that Google is trying to fulfill every need that you might have, because they think that having a worker who isn't worried about the small and mundane things in life is going to produce exceptionally better work. You'll notice that one of the unspoken parts when they showed you the Googleplex was that you're able to bring your pet to work. Now, there have been studies that prove time and time again that human beings find satisfaction in their job even greater when they're able to bring their pets. Their pets are a calming influence. They're a place for them to build community and friendships, and for people to come and touch their dog or cat and then communicate with them. It creates a homier atmosphere. It creates a place in which the philosophy of a company is clearly on display. You'll notice this. I'm going to keep working with pets because I think it's an easy way to wrap our head around this idea. Some places are pet friendly and some aren't. When they are, you might see people walking their pets around. When I go to the Home Depot, or I go to Lowe's, or I go to Anthropology, whenever it's at the Chenal Parkway place in Little Rock, you find that people are allowed to take their pets inside, and when they do, other shoppers, the people who are on staff, react positively to this. This creates a sense of wanting to be a part or to go to patronize one organization or another. So why I use that example is to hopefully highlight to you that organizations can obviously make things better for their employees this way, but they can do so for their customers as well. In no uncertain terms, I would frequent a more pet-friendly place than a less pet-friendly place because I like to take my dog places. I love my little puppy, and we like to be able to take him everywhere that we go. We baby him like he's a part of our family, and that gives you an incentive, and that's why human resources extends not only to within but without the company and the outside and an exterior perspective. So the same way that you treat your customers is an extension of the way that you're working within the company, hopefully, if you have a consistent strategy and you have consistent systems in place in order to make those strategies happen. So when I'm talking about building a human resource philosophy, you might not be able to fulfill all the needs, but find a niche in the market. Find that thing that your organization can provide that others can't. Think about whenever we talked about needs in the previous chapter. In chapter 6, we talked about how there were psychological needs of belonging. If you are a member of a sorority or fraternity, wonderful, this example is for you. But you can at least wrap your head around thinking about becoming a member of a fraternity or sorority. Some of them are pitching you a style of belonging based on the numbers that they have. We have a tremendous number of members. We're going to get you into a social network of sorts. We're going to build you friends that are going to help you get jobs. We've got alumni that come back that care about the fraternity or sorority and help to look out for our own. Some talk about the legacy, the history of the sorority or fraternity. We are the oldest sorority or fraternity on campus. These are ways that the human resource philosophy takes form in making sure that the people who are a part of it see value to it. What these are systems or practices that you can see how an organization, and this is a non-commercial entity, how they impart a human resource philosophy into what they do by giving you value, by making you want to be a part of the organization, for seeing how it fulfills, in this case, a psychological need that you have for belonging. It fits right into that Maslow's hierarchy. You want to belong. You want to feel connected. You want to feel the esteem that's associated with being a part of a valuable organization. Well, that's what we're talking about when we're talking about a human resource philosophy. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about managing these human resources. And this is what we're talking about writ large when we're talking about the human resources frame and perspective. From a corporate perspective, you need to hire the right people. You want to be selective. You want to hire people who are going to bring the right skills to the table and the right attitudes, and then you want to be able to mold those people that you hire. That's really abstract. I think one of the things that we as college professors and college students need to acknowledge is that you're coming to the university hopefully to learn a lot, to become a better educated, higher functioning member of society. But in addition, if college is doing the right thing for you, it's setting you up to be successful in a very competitive marketplace. It's setting you up for better employment opportunities. It's giving you an opportunity to better your earning potential. So one of the things that I also wanted to highlight for you was some of the personality traits that a Career Builder study in 2014 said were some of the things that really what companies were looking for. It's the idea that obviously they want you to be hardworking, dependable, positive, self-motivated, a lot of buzzwords that you've heard, but look here, whenever it talks about team-oriented and it talks about effective communicators, these are the very things that you're learning strategies for in this class about how to take part in an organization, how to be a team leader, we'll get to later, how to functionally work within an organization to not only see it succeed, but when you find yourself in a managerial role, how to make sure you highlight these opportunities for the people who are underneath you so that they see flexibility, so that you can highlight that, you can be confident, and you can be self-actualized once your other needs are met, to try to connect with the organization in question, to be sure of the skills that you're bringing to the table. Overall, what you're doing in college is you're bettering yourself at this university and in this atmosphere to be able to be on this marketplace and sell yourself in a lot easier ways, so that whenever they're looking to hire the right people, you're able to pitch yourself as having the skills and attitudes that are necessary to not only be successful within the company, but be the type of person that they want to hire. It's about being able to highlight yourself using these frames as a means of understanding the skill sets that are required in order to market oneself on the field of battle, if you want to think about it that way. The fact that you're dealing in a corporate world or in any kind of employment opportunity as a competition among all the other potential applicants that have applied, you need to be able to use these frames to highlight your own skill sets. So what do I mean by that? From the structural perspective, you can be framing in an interview and talking about the ways that you fit that organization. You can talk about the positions they have and the roles that they've established and how you can fulfill those because of the specific classes that you have, because of the experience that you have, because of the knowledge that you bring to the table. You show how you fit into their existing mold, and that makes you more attractive. From the human resources perspective, you're able to start to talk about how you have the attitude of the people that they're looking for. When we go back to Google, what was one of the things that they were looking for? They're looking for people that are comfortable in an outside the box atmosphere. They're people who are willing to come to disparate conclusions that are able to work for themselves to manage time effectively. You can use these frames as ways to orient the way that you talk about yourself on this highly competitive market. Now, there's also something you want to be aware of, both to serve you and also if you find yourself in a managerial or ownership role, that you want to keep employees. You obviously want to reward them and protect jobs, but that means that people feel comfortable. When I talk about rewarding you well, when you think about that documentary we watched from Google, those were all rewards. I think the thing that I get the most whenever I show that documentary in a traditional classroom format is everybody kind of gasps and thinks, I want to work for Google. Yeah, of course you do. It would be a wonderful place to try to work. However, not every person, because they have such a high rejection rate and everybody wants to work there, is going to get that opportunity. What you can do if you ever find yourself in a managerial role is still reward people well. Give them good salaries, sure, but beyond just salaries, what are other things that you can provide for them? I know that it sounds silly and I know that it sounds small, but I remember in a day-to-day job that I had whenever I worked at a gas station, one of the things that the gas station provided for you was free drinks. You had the, Coke and soda dispenser that was over there. You could go and get whatever you wanted to drink at any given time. They served donuts. They served those kinds of things. After a set amount of time during the day, so like 5 p.m., you could have a donut because they figured they weren't going to sell them anyway. You could consume them. They gave you free food and drink. And whenever I was a young man and I was working at a gas station, every dollar counted. Free food, particularly for a college student, is one of the greatest sales pitches that you can have. So rewards don't only come in salary. When you're talking about keeping employees, sometimes it's also about being hospitable to working with schedules. One reward of sorts is having an accepting, understanding manager who sees that you have other constraints upon you and will therefore give you the benefit of the doubt, will work with you. One of the easiest ways to get and hire the right people and to keep employees is recognize that as their life situation changes, their hours might change. The opportunities for them to work in certain days, certain times might change. You need to be respectful and reflexive to that, and that will allow you the opportunity to provide a reward in and of itself. Promotion from within is really valuable when you're talking about keeping employees because it makes people feel as though they have an incentive to work hard, and it builds a sense of trust and loyalty. When you look at somebody who has risen through the ranks from a person who starts off as the ground grunt introductory level worker and has worked themselves all the way up to through manager, through a small manager at a local store to a general manager towards that CEO or higher end position, you start to build a trust and loyalty in saying that if I work hard, then that hard work will be rewarded. Compare that with the previous chapter where we talked about people who were in low-functioning organizations and they started to feel reserved, pessimistic. They weren't interested in being a member of that organization, eventually quitting or withdrawing or being absent more and more. Well, here you're getting the complete opposite. Here, if the organization promotes from within and gives opportunity to do what we're going to talk about later when we talk about empowering employees, they build trust and loyalty amongst the worker to the organization to feel like they're going to be really well taken care of. It also allows you to capitalize on knowledge and skills. When you promote from within, this is an experience that I can share from my wife's perspective. She got hired in to a regional clothing manufacturer whenever we were in the Midwest at the time. And she had first been somebody who just worked as a clothing salesperson on the floor. So somebody who greets you and sells you clothing. Then she had gotten promoted to management within that same company. And she started to manage one department. then she managed a side of the store. That was the structure of the company that she was in. Then she went from there to their corporate office and worked as a buyer. So she then selected the goods that they sold in that same department that she then managed. Well, she knew the people who came in because she worked with that organization. She knew how the actual stores functioned. She'd been in all those positions, so she had a certain acquired knowledge and skill set that someone that you hire off the streets cannot have because they've never lived that experience. And that personal connection shows how promoting from within lets you utilize employees to their maximum capabilities. And it also shares the wealth. One last way that I want to touch on for keeping employees is to give workers a stake in organizational success. These can come in the sense of performance bonuses. If we sell X number of things, then everybody gets a bonus, and who doesn't love a bonus? But they can also come in addition to that as incentives that say things like you get so much stock in the company the longer that you've been a part of it. Now, bigger companies, that's harder and harder to do, but you can still get stock shares for being parts of certain organizations. Let's take it a little bit out of the corporate realm whenever we're talking about sharing the wealth. You can say that for every member who has been part of your organization for X number of years, they start to get to vote on decisions that the organization makes. So having an actual say in the hierarchical structure of how the organization functions is a strong way of sharing the wealth. One thing I'm going to say is it's clear that organizations that invest in their employees' learning and create opportunities for development succeed. One of the things that better school districts do is they offer money for their teachers to go and pursue a master's degree. They offer them money to be able to continue to be lifelong learners and keep taking college classes in the specific forum avenue that they work within in order to improve themselves. Companies do this all the time too. I have a friend that worked for a tech company in California, and they kept paying for him to go to school until he got his master's degree. And this just paid off little by little by being a member of the organization. And they say they'll pay for X number of credits for you to go and continue schooling in their field. Why do they do that? We can go back to the previous slide. Because they want to capitalize on your knowledge and skills. It's a really close, interconnected, interwoven relationship to say that the more you learn about your job, the better you are at doing it. So us investing in your learning pays long-term dividends moving forward, assuming you stay with our organization. So here's a different avenue that I want to talk about. Let's talk about how we empower employees. Empowering employees comes from helping them to not only feel like they have the information and support necessary that they need to be able to succeed in their job, but it also talks about fostering autonomy and participation. Autonomy is a nice way of saying feeling like you're individually able to take part in how the organization functions. Feeling like you're not just a cog in a machine from the structural perspective, but that your contribution to the overall organization helps to make it function, is valued, and that when you have something to say about how to change the way the organization operates, that that's responded to, that it's meaningful, that it's met with some form of not necessarily immediate change, but at least an avenue from which to productively say it, think it, feel it, express it, so that you feel like you gain esteem from it, opportunity from it, that you feel, I don't want to say empowered when I'm talking about the nature of empowerment, but to really feel like you can do it. It's a yes you can kind of style to the idea of making employees feel connected to the organization. You might be able to build self-managing teams so that people don't fall into that trap we talked about in Chapter 6, where they're dependent upon leadership to tell them what to do. You know what needs to be done. How do you do it better, faster? How do you do it with less labor? You can empower people by giving them the latitude to do that. Certain organizations give you a set of goals to achieve, and they let you achieve those goals rather than telling you how to achieve those goals. It's another linkage to that case study of Harvard versus the McDonald's Corporation. Self-managing, self-regulating, opportunity groups function through empowerment. They make the people who are taking part in that organization feel like their contribution matters, and therefore when we talk about fulfilling needs, one of the keys to self-actualization is esteem and empowerment. It's the idea that you feel like, yes, I can do this. I'm going to be able to not only do this, but I'm going to be successful in doing this. And these things allow you to be a better worker, to produce more widgets, to do whatever it is that you do within that organization. That's the kind of things you can do in order to make people feel empowered. So one of the last things we're going to talk about is diversity. So you always need to have diversity within organizations. And here's one of the interesting things that I always say in a classroom when we talk about, I ask, what is diversity? I can't do this for you. But diversity is just having a multitude of different opinions, visions of the world. And when I ask why diversity is important, sometimes I'm not satisfied with the answer that I get. So now is a nice opportunity to provide you with an answer that I think is beneficial. The importance of diversity is that it allows you an access point to see the world in ways that you would not have otherwise seen. A simple one is, whenever you have a committee or a group or an organization that is all of one gender, I'm going to pick on men because I am a man and therefore I feel comfortable, being self-deprecating and picking on myself. If it's all guys in a room, you share a homogenous perspective that can be improved upon by having a female's voice. Why? Because they experience the world differently than you. They have seen and felt and interacted in different ways. Some of, whenever we talk about racial groups and we talk about empowering people through diversity, one of the things that we're talking about is the lived experience of the individual brings something to the table through this diversification of opinion. More people and their viewpoints. If you've ever said out loud to another person, well, I never thought about it that way, that's an example of why diversity is so important, because through multi-perspectival learning, through a collaborative effort where multiple different viewpoints are encountered, empowered, and allowed to exist, you come up with better ideas. You come up with better solutions. Organizations are made stronger by diversity, not because we ought to have diversity and that it's important and it's valuable. Too generic. It's because the perspectives and communications and experiences that people bring to the table from varied walks of life improve the quality of outputs. They improve the quality of human resource services that we're providing. They provide a better work environment for everyone involved, and you need to be able to hold people accountable to this. It's the idea that you need to make sure that if you're in my magical group of all gentlemen who are making decisions, I could play you the clip, but I don't happen to have it up, where I saw a congressional representative standing around and they said, well, this is one of the most diverse groups that I've ever seen in all of Congress. And they're looking up and down, and it's 7 guys of different racial backgrounds and ethnicities, and it's diverse in that regard. But there's no women. So it's interesting to say that something is very diverse when it excludes 50% of the population. That's why accountability and standards and promoting diversity are always important, no matter how big or small an organization, because perspectival understanding and experience really can make an organization stronger. So in conclusion, we've talked about how to manage human resources. We've talked about how to make people feel more connected to an organization. We've used the case study of Google to show how when needs are met, we're more excited to be a part of an organization. We've talked about empowerment. We've talked about diversity. We've talked about the importance of the job skills that we're learning and how these frame perspectives that we're learning can help us on the job market. If I were going to write a response paper to this chapter, things that I might talk about are how strategies that I've encountered in work environments have been either positive or negative because of the rewards that they provided. So use a case study example. I might be willing to talk about how other alternative routes that I've felt empowered or disempowered in a workspace, how that made me feel, how it made me feel connected to the organization. I might pick an organization that's in my life, and I might use the human resources tool to talk about what does it bring to my life, why is it valuable, what needs does it fulfill of mine. So test the frame itself by picking an organization and utilizing the pieces of it to explain that organization and see if it holds true, see if it works. As always, I greatly encourage you, if you have any questions, to email me or contact me directly. I'd be happy to help, and I hope that you, as I have had a lovely time. Looking forward to the next lecture. Thank you.